Today we're going to look at core values. Core values or values in general can be defined as values that are individual beliefs and how they motivate one to act in one way or another. They serve as a guide for our behaviors, right? When we think about our values, we can think about what we value in relation to the goals that we want to set for ourselves. So, how do our values change our goals? Are our values something that are anchoring us? Are they consistent? Were we brought up with them, or have they changed as we've gotten older? What do they connect us to? How are they labeled, whether it be important versus unimportant? And honestly, how do they motivate and give us energy? And here I've put down what I like to use, the best obtainable SMART goals, because they're short. And as you see here, they're realistic. They're time bound. It's something that is obtainable. You can measure it, and it's specific. So you're looking at, when it says specific, real numbers with real deadlines. It makes sense, right? So if I say I want to lose 20 pounds in a week, we know that if we look at a SMART goal, that one, that's not realistic, and two, that's not obtainable, right? But if I say I'd really like to work on losing 20 pounds in the next 3 months, okay, we can measure that, right? We can make sure that it's trackable. We can make sure that working towards a goal, that it's going to be challenging, but it's going to be possible. It means that I may have to change my eating habits, or it means I may have to go to the gym a little bit more. You have to be realistic with it. Like, if you aren't able to stay consistent with a healthier diet and an exercise routine, then you may not be able to obtain the goal, right? And then again, being time bound. So when we think about time, we're not going to say, I want to lose 20 pounds in a week. We are saying, I'm going to give myself 3 months to do this. And that I can measure. So we've measured our goals, right? We've come up with, specific goals that we want to reach, and in some way, shape, or form, they do relate to our core values, right? But then those can also be stressful, and we go back to our very first discussion on stress management and resiliency, right? And so now we're thinking, like, how are our values assisting us with our stress? Like, what do we value in everyday life? Like, I can say that I value integrity, and I value somebody who's loving, or I value my family, and I value people who are empathetic. And when we think about values and them assisting with our stress, we know that if we are able to do things like short-term writing, so if we are journaling, how are our values helping us feel more powerful in our decision making? I personally used to be somebody who sat back and was not assertive in my behaviors, and now I found that being more assertive has made me feel more powerful, not only in my job, but things that I enjoy doing outside of that. It makes me feel in control, and very proud of myself for having the ability to stand up for myself. Also, again, those loving and connecting relationships. It allows you to be more empathetic towards others. When you see your values and what it is that grounds you as a person, you will see how it does increase one, your self-control and your self-awareness. And it really takes those stressful situations and it allows them to subside in a way that you can handle them realistically, and you're not finding yourself getting overly struggling with them because the stressor is not necessarily there, or you're able to manage it better. When we think about our values and problem solving, which problem solving we'll talk more about in week 5, um, we say that problem solving skills and the problem solving process, right, they're a critical part of daily life, both for individuals and organizations. So you'll find that not only do you have to problem solve at home, but you have to problem solve at work, and you have to be able to see opportunities. You have to be able to look at your environment and how are you able to control um, those those two things. How can I control my everyday home life, and how can I control my everyday work life? Whether that be if you're working from home, or if you're at an office, or you've got kids, or you've got grandkids, or you're taking care of an elderly parent, or even a child with disabilities. Whatever it may be, we have to learn how to problem solve all those things. And when we think about our values and then attach them to problem solving, it definitely gives us an appreciation for, social emotional issues, right? Um, it, it, we become very resourceful. We become self-reliant, thoughtfulness and perseverance. I know that when we think about those harder things that we have going on, if we're at work and we're thinking about what's going on at home, if we're not focusing on the values that we have, whatever those might be, because everybody's values are very different. So it's really sitting down, writing them down, and finding out, what values, what is it that I have that makes me who I am, and helps me get through stressful things, helps me be more resilient. They are going to help you in those everyday problem solving experiences, whether it's schools closed and your significant other is out of town for work, and now you've got to figure out, like, school's closed and I don't have a daycare backup, but I have to go to work because I can't miss today because I've got X, Y, and Z going on. When you look at your values, you're going to be able to say, okay, this is how am I going to be resourceful? What do I have, or who do I have? Who can I rely on? What stones have I laid to create myself a path to be able to get through this current problem that I have? Those current problems give us what I like to call the superpowers of knowing your values, right? So when we realize what they are, we see that they help in reduction of stress, and they're our connection, values, decision making, and problem solvings, and energy. Oh my gosh, the energy and the willpower to persist and complete tasks. And again, going back to being assertive, and communication with compassion instead of communicating with disdain or anger. Ability to make wiser choices in life events, or building those healthier habits, are all very key to when you understand what your values are, because when you understand those, you are able to meet all the needs of that you have above, and that's understanding situations that may arise, and dealing with stressful situations. And stress comes with things when we have problems that we have to solve. So, using our superpowers, using those values that we strive to instill in whether it's our own children or those around us, knowing that those are what ground you is really what's going to help you in each one of these areas. So I really enjoyed that the Marine Corps put this problem solving strategies handout out. And the more I dig into problem solving, and I try to find different techniques on how to teach it and not be so clear and precise as, the basic of, you know, what worked before or brainstorming, things like that, making a list, draw it out. I feel like I'm back in high school in science class, and I have to form a hypothesis and, potentially seek advice or play guess and check and identify and define. And um, honestly, it that's exactly what it is. Problem solving is, being back in school, figuring out the ideal method that is going to allow us to to receive an answer that is going to be um, good for us in the end. And then also seeking those mental, physical, social, and spiritual things that are going to be what we need to help us work through all these problem solvings. Because if we are mentally, physically, socially, spiritually fit, mind, body, soul, right? Mind, body, mental fitness, um, then we are able to get through all of these challenges. And it really is the most important factor in understanding that when our mind is sound and we feel physically energized and socially connected, that working through brainstorming, seeking advice, making lists, or identifying and defining really will allow us to solve the the obstacles that come in our way. So when our behaviors and values conflict, right? Like basic strategies for realizing when your behaviors are going to conflict with your values is you want to become self-aware, right? You want to learn how to use your self-control or your listening skills, being empathetic to maybe the situation that's in front of you. Um, Sometimes it may be that you have to use assertive communication to just let others know like where it is you stand, but also understanding that it might be one of those things where assertive communication just isn't what's needed. It's something that is getting in the way of you being able to use, your own self-control or your own problem-solving abilities because you may not like confrontation. So not just listening, but actively communicating in what things work for you. And, ways that you can apply these behaviors in the office are, whether or not you're a supervisor or in any sort of management or just being a team player, but having that open door policy, asking for peer review or employee appeals if you feel like your environment is toxic. And there's also the ability to have like internal and professional mediation. If you feel like you've talked to a coworker and things aren't working out, and then you went to your management and things just still aren't going, then ask for things like mediation. They will help in things like bringing self-awareness and effective communication, and helping with those problem-solving skills. SWOT is a good one when we think about our strengths, our weaknesses, the opportunities, and our threats, right? So if you can ask these four questions, what are your personal internal strengths that can lean on to help you achieve your goals? So what are my strengths and how will they help me achieve those SMART goals, right? Um, my internal weaknesses or things that you need to work on. Looking at external opportunities, resources, people, trainings, anything that you can take advantage of to help you achieve your future plans. And then what external threats, obstacles, any type of predictive factors that can mitigate to ensure that you reach your goals are going to be key and allowing you to use all those superpowers of your values that you know you have. And when you utilize these strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and even the threats, you will see that you can meet each individual task and get through each obstacle with less stress and maybe even a little extra time on your hands. A few resources, mediation for conflict, a couple YouTube videos that are really great, and then positive psychology has some great worksheets um, for active listening, um, blindfold guiding, generating alternative solutions, just things that you can look at.